Hey everyone, welcome back to the shop. Today what we're going to work on is installing these GPM Racing stainless steel turnbuckles, or as they call them, adjustable tie rods. They're pretty much the same thing. They use them as turnbuckles, they use them as upper control arms, they use them as tie rods. So there's 100 different names for these things, but this is what GPM calls them, and this is their part number, the MAG160S-OC-BEBK. These are the stainless steel versions because I just like stainless steel. It's very hard, it's very tough, and it doesn't wear away like aluminum does. On the stock units, I have installed the Hot Racing red balls. These wore out just about as fast as the composite ones that come stock. So I mean, I probably got 20 packs through my stock ones, and I'm about 25-30 packs on these. The other problem with these is that the center is steel, just kind of black coated in a very thin coating, and I took this thing to the beach, ran it around in the sand, and these rusted almost immediately. I did my best to clean them up, but as you can see, they are pretty rusty looking. So we're going to swap them out for these. Yeah, look at those. There's a couple tips and tricks in installing these, and of course you're going to have to remove them first. Very simple, just 2 bolts each, they just pop right out. There was a modification I had to do to the upper bulkhead on both the front and the rear for the upper control arm, because I had to sand out a little bit of the space where the width of this is a little bit wider than the width of the composite ones. However, these are identical. I test fit these, they fit just fine. So you're going to have to do the same modification you would have to do had you installed the Hot Racing balls. Will you have to install the GPM Racing set? So here's the tip. You can use something fancy like a pair of calipers and start measuring and get your ball centers 100% perfect, or you can just use a ruler. So luckily my mat here has a ruler on it. What I can do is look down the barrel here, or even just line up the outside of this ball joint like that and move it next to the new one like that. And as I can see clearly here, when these are lined up here, this one is about, I'd say about 3 millimeters too long. So what we're going to do is we're going to compress this a little bit to make it match the stock one. What this does is it makes sure that your truck is going to handle the way it did prior to you actually installing these. So that way, you know, any fine tweaks that you have can be accomplished, you know, from where you left off, not from starting from scratch. You don't have to go through the whole truck trying to realign everything. So on these, it's fairly simple. You can stick I think we need a pin. Where's the pin? So on these, it's fairly simple. What you're going to do is you're going to lock out one end by sticking a 2 to 2.5 millimeter hex through one end and a pin punch through the other one, or you can even use a 1 millimeter or 1.5 millimeter, and righty tighty on this side. On the side with no line, there's a side with a line and a side with no line. The side with no line is righty tighty, so we can snug that up. On the other side, I'm going to flip this around. Now we're on the side with the line. That side is, guess what? Lefty-loosey. Now why is that? Well, because turnbuckles need to operate both ends at the same time, meaning one turn of the center section needs to pull in both threads. So you can't do that if it's a standard left-hand thread on both of them. You can only do that if they are opposite threads. So I think that's pretty much as far in as it can go. Let's line these back up. And that is pretty darn close, center on center. It could go in a little bit more, but I think we're splitting hairs there. That's going to be where I'm going to leave it when I go to install it. Okay, so I did the same thing on the upper control arm as I did the outer control arm, or as I did the steering control arm. So here we go. We're going to slide that right into the bulkhead mount up here. Slide it in as far as it goes. I'm going to take our longer bolt here. I believe this is the right size bolt. Whoop. The Badlands ate my bolt. There it goes. Go in like this. Push it all the way to the back. Yep, that's the one. And now we're going to slide the outer one in the same way. We're just going to line it up. And these ears tend to spread a little bit, so that should be a little bit easier to get in. We're going to take the outside bolt. Slide that right in. Just get those started. Now we could take our actual tie rod. How am I installing these? I'm installing these right? Yes. I try to install all of these with the line facing outwards. I don't know if that matters or not, but it keeps all of your adjustments the same. So that way, you know, turning forward on one side is the same as turning forward on this entire side, and turning backwards on the other side is the same as turning backwards. Just helps to keep track of what you're doing when you're actually out in the field adjusting these. If you're adjusting these on, you know, out in the track or out during a bash session, it's good to keep track of what you're doing. I'm running an Integy steering block, which is, sorry, you can't see anything. It's a Integy steering block, which is basically the same exact thing as stock, except it's made out of aluminum. So this will be the same for yours, even if it's aluminum or if it's the stock composite one. Now we can take our 2mm and send everything home. You do not need to use Loctite going into composite or plastic. You should use Loctite going into aluminum. However, I take my vehicle apart so much, too much Loctite just gets in the way. We now have a fully built... Ooh, that steering feels a lot tighter now. That's awesome. So that's a good way to take all the steering slop out of the front end of your vehicle too. These balls plus an Integy or any sort of aluminum block for steering. Your servo saver, the stock one, I'm running a aluminum 20 kg steering servo in this. Basically the cheapest one on Amazon you can find. It's like $16. I think I showed you a video on that one as well. You can click up here for that video. Anyway, I installed that and it made the steering so much better. Then I noticed how much slop there was. So then the only thing that doesn't come with the Integy is it doesn't come with the bearings that go in here. You'd have to reuse the plastic bushings that come with the stock steering block, but I did not want to use those, so I found a set of those small bearings online for pretty cheap. They're basically the same size bearings that are in, oh geez, I think we're talking like the voltage. I think they're like the voltage size wheel bearings. They're very small. Anyway, this feels great. I'm excited to go out and run this. Now it has new drive shafts and new turnbuckles, so that's it. Very excited. It feels better just being on the bench, so I can only imagine it's going to drive a whole lot better. So thank you everyone for watching. If you like this, please consider subscribing, clicking the bell, sharing this video, and liking. We'll see you on the next one. Thanks.